What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the spinoff season 2, another episode, of course. Today, my guest, everybody, he is a professional MMA fighter fighting out of Omaha right now. He is a light heavyweight fighting at 7-2 for a professional record right now, and won his last fight just this last weekend. I'd like to welcome Ryan Leininger. How you doing, my man?
How you doing, man? Yeah, this last fight, it almost cost me my ear, but we got it done.
I was waiting to bring that up, but I'm glad you brought it up right off the bat because you posted it on Instagram and Facebook. Mm-hmm. I could have stuck a finger through your ear up here in the lobe. Oh,
it's gnarly for sure. It's healing a lot better now. Get a little bit closer. You just see we got it all stitched up, and it looks 10 times better than it did right after the fight. But like you said, it was just kind of hanging there. It was just split open. It was on my I posted on my Facebook and Instagram, and you know how many people messaged me and were like, dude, I was like eating when I looked at that, or why didn't you censor that? I was like, I don't know, man. I figured it would have censored itself if I posted it, and nope, I guess I was supposed to do it. So yeah, I just posted it out there for everyone to see the inside of my ear.
Now, like I said, you still won the fight. Now, did this happen pretty early in the fight, or was this toward the later stages?
It was early on in the fight. I won in the first round by submission, but it was just kind of, I could have written the script on how that fight was going to go, and it went exactly the way we kind of, well, I was hoping I didn't have to, get hit at all, but we knew that the guy I was fighting he came in a little heavy, and he was an athlete, more of a brawler type. He wasn't a super technical guy. He was going to make the fight ugly, and that's what you got to do when you're fighting me. And so we expected that, and that's exactly what happened. He came out, guns blazing, swinging, like punches coming at me from every angle I've never seen before, and then before we knew it, I was on top of him, and luckily got the choke and got out of there. So, yeah, that's how my last couple fights have went. Man. Got to figure that out real soon before I start getting. I'm gonna have to get plastic surgery on my face before I'm done. And like I tore my kidney my last fight. I got my eye stitched up, and this fight got my ear busted open.
See, that's what I'm saying. If you're going to be an MMA fighter, you've got to do this for love. You absolutely have to love what you're doing.
What else are you doing it for? What? I mean, I won't disclose exactly all that money I'm making, but I'll tell you what, it's definitely not for money at all. So if I could go back, and I'm too far into it now to do anything else. So
yeah, it's like the most extreme you can get of the life of a stand-up comedian. You really could. It is like a stand-up comedian gets punched in the face every damn night he's on stage. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like you talked about, the last couple of fights you said went your way. So, I mean, what do you attribute that to? Is it the coaching, the game film, or is it all around just everything coming together as one?
Well, dude, fighting's such a theater. It's the theater of the unknown. You never know what you're going to get. So, I mean, I definitely do my part. I live the lifestyle. I'm training every day, and anytime there's a session or a class twice a day, I'll be in there. I'm trying to live the lifestyle. I work 3-4 days a week around just to pretty much pay my way, make enough money to be able to train. I mean, I'm living paycheck to paycheck, but that's what I prefer to do, and that's what we're doing. I would probably say that my last 2 fights, moving training camps over here to Glory, has probably gotten me through, has helped a little bit, because in past fights, I think that, especially as an amateur, there were fights that went a little bit longer that I felt like I didn't necessarily quit, but I could have given more. And I think that just putting myself in this camp with a bunch of good grapplers and doing all the rounds we do, that these fights where I've seen adversity in the first round that have been tough or haven't been going my way has allowed me to stick in there and stick it out and pull out the W. So partly changing camps, partly my hard work, a little bit of everything, and the coaching. So I'm good where I'm at. I'm happy where I'm at.
That's awesome. And dude, that's what it is. What we just talked about. I mean, you got to love what you do. If you're happy with what you're doing as well, and you're happy where you're at with what you're doing, Man, you never work a damn day in your life.
Yeah. I'll tell you, it feels the only time it really feels like a job is fight day. It's like, man, this why do I do it every time? It's the same thing every time. I've been here, I have 40 plus fights, so I know what to expect, but it's just that, there's no perfect job, is what they say. There's no perfect job where you're 100% happy all the time.
Yeah.
This is for me is as close as it gets because I love the lifestyle. I love training. I love pushing myself, seeing what I'm capable of doing. But I would say fight day or fight week is probably the hardest part of my job, if you want to call it a job, just because of all the anxiety and stress and
Oh.
overthinking everything. And so, but if I only got to hate my job a couple weeks out of the year, I must be doing something right, man.
Oh, I would say so. Now, how old are you, Ryan? If you don't
I'm
mind.
25. I'll be 26 in March, so about another month or so, and then I got to get on my own insurance.
Oh man. All right. So you're roughly about 14 years younger than myself.
Mhm.
So you kind of got to grow up when MMA was really hitting its stride. UFC was starting to be more mainstream. Wasn't quite what it is now with ESPN Plus and all that matter. But hey, did you find it much easier to get into MMA as you got older than, say, somebody my age would have found? MMA didn't get huge till I was damn near your age.
Mhm.
So did that help you really want to say, hey, holy shit, this is amazing. I want to do this.
Yeah, it definitely played a role in it because I had been curious about it for a while. That's how I got into MMA. Really, is I was watching. I had a buddy that I grew up in a small town, probably about an hour and a half away from where I started training, which was in Omaha. So I grew up in Red Oak, Iowa, and so it was about an hour and a half away. And I was always into other sports like football and basketball. So I had a buddy that always drove like every weekend down to go train, and he was always trying to get me to do it. And I was like, no, dude, I'm not gonna drive an hour and a half every weekend. I wasn't super into it, but I was into it enough to where like he would have fight nights at his house where we would watch the UFC fights, and then I was like really intrigued by it. I was like, man, this would be something really cool to do. Never really saw myself doing it until I got out of high school. I went and um, tried to play sports in college for a year and then just realized I was kind of wasting my time and my money there. And so it was kind of just an outlet for me. I was like, hey, I live in Omaha now because about in Council Bluffs. I was living with my parents and they're about 20 minutes from the gym. So I'm like, hey, why not try it now? As an outlet, and not really I didn't really get into it to tell myself like, hey, I'm going to be in the UFC and I'm going to make a career out of this. It was kind of just something. I've always been an athlete. I've always been into working out. So I just wanted to do something to stay fit and didn't know what I was doing. And then once I started doing it, I just really loved it. And that was it. So now here we are 6 years later, half my face ripped off, a bunch of scars to show for it, and we're going with it. So I would have never expected it, this to be what I was doing, but now I'm so glad everything kind of just turned out perfectly. MMA kind of hit its stride right when I started getting into it, so I got kind of lucky in that aspect. It's a lot easier now to find somewhere to train and get good training than it was back then. So
Yeah, that's for sure. I think even my small town has a spot where you can go to train for MMA. So,
yeah,
I mean, it's ridiculous. It is. It's all over. Now, we
it's a,
talked about the record 7-2. Now, wins are easy to remember, but they always say, even in poker, man, you always remember the losses.
mm-hmm.
Can you take me through, like, maybe where you could pinpoint these fights may have gone wrong and that's where it cost you, and where you decided to make the change in order for that to not happen again?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm big on even in wins, man. I've been just as upset, not just as upset, but I've been upset before and emotional even after wins because I'm always so obsessed with fixing what I have to fix. And so like even this last fight in the locker room after the fight, I wasn't in a great mood. Everyone was like, "Oh, you won, great fight," and I just knew that I was looking at everything that I need to do better instead of I won the fight and
Not to mention you damn near lost half your ear.
I know I lost my ear. I wasn't even thinking about that though. Adrenaline was going. All of a sudden I got in the locker room after and someone was like, "Hey, your like ear has a little cut on it." And I was like, "Oh, does it?" Go look in the mirror and the thing's just flapping there in the wind. And I'm just like, "Oh, that sucks." But um yeah, so I'm always self-critical. Even after wins, I'm always just in this mindset where I want to fix what I did wrong in the fight. So it's kind of like a bad thing. And I know it's a good thing, but it's also kind of a bad thing because it takes away from me enjoying it as much. I mean, once a couple of days goes by and it's everything settles, like now I'm in a lot better spot than I was directly after my fight. I'm glad I won. I'm glad I, battled through adversity and got the W. And I'm grateful that I have something to work on to improve, and still grateful that I get to do this. So there's really nothing to carry on more than the night of to be upset about. But yeah, after those losses, that's when I knew that this sport was for me, because that first loss as a pro where I had the best, still to this day, the best and most clean training camp that I ever had out in Colorado, where I was there for a few months and I was really strict with everything with my diet. I was in shape. I was just mentally locked and loaded, ready to go. And then I came out and got TKO'd in 10 seconds.
Oh shit.
Like the first punch the dude threw. And what happened is I felt like I was just I was trying to be too loose. I wasn't in the fight right at the start. And this dude just came and I zigged when I should have zagged, angled to the left and threw an overhand right that I ran right into. And I got dropped and TKO'd. And, it is upsetting. First, obviously it really, really stings for a couple days after the fight, because I knew what I put into that fight, and I had in my mind the way the fight was going to go. It was 180 degrees the other way, how it turned out. But I knew the good that came out of it, because what can you really learn also in 10 seconds when you get one punch TKO'd? It's like now I don't even really have anything to, like, I guess don't start the fight so slow.
Yeah.
Is what I learned from
Don't get caught by it again.
But what I really took from it is that, a couple days later, I was back in the gym hitting pads, and I was as motivated as ever to get in and get back to work and get that out of my mind. So that's when I knew that this sport was for me, because that's as low as it gets right there, man. And I got TKO, not to take anything away from the guy. He's great. He brought it to me, but in my mind, I beat him 9 times out of 10.
It's a lucky shot.
Yeah, and well,
not to discredit the win.
Yeah, I don't want to discredit him. It was he caught me and it was his night, but
yeah,
in my head, I win that fight 99 times out of 100. So that was another hard pill to swallow. So I knew that with all that being said, getting as low as it could go, everyone always has the fear of getting knocked out or getting TKO'd. And not only that, and I came back from doing a training camp in Colorado where everyone was like, "Oh my God, I'm so excited to see how much better you've gotten. I'm so, ready to watch you fight in my, or like 30 minutes from my hometown." And this dude just comes in and steals the show in 10 seconds. And damn. I was back in the gym on Monday hitting pads actually. And my doctor came in and was like, "Hey man, you got to let your mind heal. Like, you just got a concussion. You can't train for a couple weeks. Don't be hitting pads. Don't be doing anything." But I was just ready to go. I was like, man, I want to get back in there and get back to work and get that out of my mind. So that is what I took from that fight. I think that I didn't want that. And if I could go back, I would change it. But since we can't do that, I am glad that I took the lesson of knowing that this is for me. Like, no matter what happens in my fight, I'm going to be motivated and I'm going to put it behind me and keep going. So that's what I took from that fight. And then that second loss, kind of the same deal. I came out, I was looking good. And a couple minutes into the fight, I fought Joseph Holmes, who I actually train with now here at Glory in Kansas City. He does some of his camps here. Really good dude. And he just made his UFC debut this last weekend.
Holy
and
shit.
Fought to a close decision and lost to Jamie Pickett.
Oh,
and so that was my second loss. I was feeling good. I was doing everything right for the first couple minutes of the fight, and then I got caught with a right hand behind the ear, and that's the sport for you, man. It's like it happens. So that I could take a little bit more from, and that was, you know, more of a technical error on my part. I was rushing in. I wasn't setting up. You know, I was trying to close the distance because he's a long guy, and he hits hard. So I wasn't trying to be on the end of his punch, but in doing that, I kind of put myself in danger just by closing the distance and trying to get that early finish. I do happen to get a little excited early on in fights. Like I've been out of the first round once as a pro.
Damn.
So that's one thing that I do need to work on, is kind of settling into the fight and being a little bit more patient. So
hey, Mike Tyson didn't.
Yeah, that's true. But you know, I don't hit like a Mack truck either. I got to stick to what I'm good at, which is moving and being sound defensively. And I need to get back to having fun in there. And I think my last two fights, even though I've won, that's what I'm taking from those fights as well. Is I'm overthinking things a little bit, and I just need to be patient and trust in my training and be confident, and we're good to go, man.
Now, like we said at the beginning, you fight at the light heavyweight division. Is that correct?
No. I mean, I fight light heavyweight. If you look it up, it was a light heavyweight fight, but and I fought light heavyweight a couple times as a pro, but they were short notice or guys missing weight. This fight, this is actually kind of a crazy story. I was actually going to fight at welterweight, which is 170. I was walking around at about 180, ready to make my welterweight debut as a pro, because most of my fights are at middleweight, 185, and I've had a couple light heavyweight fights that were short notice at 205, but mainly because they were short notice. And so I was ready to make my welterweight debut. My opponent pulled out the week of, so I got a replacement. Was supposed to be at 185 at middleweight. I said, all right, that's cool. I mean, I'm walking around at 180, but I'll go have a burger. I'll go eat some pizza and wings. Fight week, hell yeah, I'm all for it. And then we show up, and my manager's like, hey man, don't cut any weight. He's gonna be a little heavy. And I was like, all right. He's like, he came in at 195. He's trying to cut weight, but I don't know. He might not make it. And I was like, all right, I guess I'll eat some more pizza and tacos then.
Holy shit.
And then I show up to weigh-ins, and he weighed in 204 instead of, you know, it was supposed to be 185.
Damn.
So when I showed up, I was like, 204, like, is commission even going to allow this? I had to, you know, I had to stuff my pockets and my sweatpants and my sweatshirt and weigh in with everything to be 190, to weigh in at 190. So that way it could be considered a light heavyweight fight. So that's why we did it at light heavyweight. He came in on a short notice and was a little bit heavier than we expected. So, but we got it done. And the things going through my mind, like at weigh-ins, I definitely felt like, because my coach was asking me, what do you want to do? I called him and I was like, hey, so the guy's a little heavy. He's 20 pounds heavier than we thought. Yeah. What do you think we should do? He's an athlete. We knew I was the more skilled fighter. We knew that the longer the fight went would favor me, but we also knew that he was going to be dangerous that first couple minutes, because he's an athlete and he was a brawler, and he's going to come to fight, you know, on short notice. Just so we knew what we were going up against. He asked me, hey man, it's not my call. I'm not there. What do you think? I want to rock with it. I said, well, I'm here. I'm ready to show out. I'm ready to fight. And yes, I'm not going to lie, I did feel a lot more danger in the fight. I did have that sense of like, oh God, I better fit in really early. I better not let him hit me, because he's 20 pounds heavier, and it's a grown man, you know, like he's an athlete in there. And so once I made the decision that I was going to fight, I threw the weight and the money and everything else that didn't matter aside, and I focused on the task at hand, and I'm glad we got it done. I mean, I didn't get it done in the fashion I would have liked to. In my opinion, I didn't have the best performance, or even close to what I would consider a great performance for me, but I'm glad to come away with the win and be in good health, minus my ear, and have something to work on for the next one. That's what it's about. So
Dude, I'm telling you, MMA, the way the fights are, it's like racing. It don't matter if it's by an inch or a mile. So
Mhm.
it don't matter if you ended it the way you wanted or an unconventional way to get there. Fact is, you won. That's
Yeah.
all that matters.
Yep. Yeah, and especially right now at in the position I'm at, where wins is really the main thing that matters right now. I mean, of course, I want to come out because I'm 7-2 as a pro. I'm still fighting local, but I'm looking to get to that next level, hopefully in a couple fights here. But that's really when you get to the next level is when you want to show that you belong there. And I do believe that my style is going to be perfect for. I think I fight to my competition. Like when I fight guys that are better or more technical, more skilled, it brings out a more technical, more skilled side of me, because that's what I'm used to training. I'm used to training with high level guys and getting certain looks, certain technical looks. And then sometimes when guys come out on short notice and just come out and brawl with you, it shocks you. It really does. It messes with you a little bit and kind of shuts me down, makes me overthink things a little bit. So um, I think that'll be good. I think that'll be good. Once I start fighting higher level guys, I think that I'll be a lot more pleased with my performance and I'll start having what I would consider better performances out of myself. So we'll see. Right now, it's just about wins. I got to get that record good. And so that way, if the UFC does call, they're not trying to sign a guy that's, 5-5 or
Yep.
has a losing record. They're looking at me seeing that I have, 7 first round finishes, 7-2, and we can build from that.
I'm telling you, what does it take then to get that call from the UFC or even Bellator or whoever?
Well, besides winning and getting
Yeah.
finishes, obviously is number one. It's kind of about who you know and management, and that's why I'm really fortunate and grateful to be where I am, because I know a lot of people and I'm coached and managed by guys that have ins with the UFC. So let's say the UFC needs someone short notice, or they'll get a hold of some coaches like James Krause. I know they talk all the time, and Kraus will throw my name in there and be like, "Hey, if you need somebody, I got a guy. He's 7-2, 8-2, 9-2. He's ready to roll." So it really helps to have someone that has ties with the UFC, which I happen to have a lot of. So I think when I'm ready, and my coaches think I'm ready, then we'll go for it. I think it's not as hard to get in the UFC nowadays as it was 5-10 years ago, and my coaches will be the first one to tell you that. Like then it was kind of just, you got to win, you got to get your name out there, and the UFC's got to call you. And nowadays there's so much more opportunity. I mean, I think that it's harder to stay in the UFC because there's so many new guys getting signed all the time, and so that means more people are getting cut all the time. It's a lot easier to get into the UFC nowadays, but it's also a lot harder to stay in the UFC as well. So, I mean, yeah, that's one of the things I'm for. That I am very grateful for that. I think that when we're ready, that we'll get a shot. So,
Now, you think of any fighter that maybe you grew up watching, the current fighter, maybe, who would be your dream match, do you think?
dream match, like for me to fight or to watch?
For you to be in, who would you love
Mm.
to take on, win or lose? You've been looking for this fight your entire fucking life.
You know, I the first couple of people that come to mind, because I really like Israel Adesanya. He's one of my favorite fighters, and he's around my weight class. I think that would be a really fun fight. And then just knowing it would be a striking battle, but that's, yeah, I'd have to really think about that. Right now, I'd have to say Israel Adesanya. I think that would be an exciting fight, and he's one of my favorite fighters. And I think that like when he fought um, the Spider, Anderson
Oh,
Silva, that would be like what it would be for me. Like I kind of came up, I've only been training for about 5 or 6 years, so it's not like I grew up like idolizing
yeah.
any fighters or anything like that. But since I've been in the sport, I've always loved watching him fight and kind of, and copied stuff that he does, and all of us fighters do. We try to take what we can from every fighter, but I watch all his fights. I'm so amazed by his footwork and how he can, control the pace of a fight and keep. And everyone thinks it, oh, he's just a striker and we'll take him down. But the way he can manipulate you and keep you on the feet and just stay long and have that takedown defense and keep the fight where he wants, I really, really, I think that's amazing. So I don't know. That's what it would be like for me. I'd have to say Israel Adesanya.
Hey, that's not a bad choice right there. I think that'd be awesome to see.
The shitty thing is being like, you know what? But if I lose, I'm gonna get knocked out.
Yeah.
So it's like, but it would still be really cool.
It'd be an honor to be knocked out by them.
Yeah. It would be an honor to knock out Israel Adesanya. Thank you, sir. Next.
I love that. And see, this is what I love about MMA. I mean, any background of it doesn't have to be fighting. It doesn't have to be boxing. It doesn't have to be jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, anything like that. You could have a wrestling background. You could have a football background. Like you said, the last man you fought was just an athlete. This is something he's trying out. I mean, to me, MMA has people from all walks of life. Now, you've got to be well-rounded as a fighter, of course. You can't be just good at your stand-up. You can't be just good on the ground. Where do you like to take the fight? Do you like it to be a stand-up brawl, or do you like to take it to the mat and try and get it over with?
Well, anytime I can get a fight over with, get in and get out, I'm going to choose that. I want longevity. I don't, as much as people, want to say they want to be in wars and show and have good fights, I really don't. I want longevity. Like, I don't want to get hit. I don't, afterwards, being in a war is all, that's sometimes will help you get noticed. And people will
fight of the year type stuff.
Yeah, fight of the year type stuff. So I think everybody thinks about that a little bit, and there is a part of me that would love to be in a fight like that, because I know I'm tough, and I know the more I'm getting hit in fights, I start talking more and kind of egging people on in fights. So I know that I would do well in under that circumstance, like being in one of those fights. But also, anytime I can get in injury free, not get hit, and get the fight over with, that's what I'm gonna do every time. I prefer to keep it on the feet, to be honest with you. I'm a striker at the end of the day. I have spent the last couple years rounding out my game, like you said, because especially this day and age, you have to be well rounded. You cannot be only a striker, only a grappler. Guys are just too good, and there's just too many styles to beat you if you're only one thing. So I started off striking, was a really good striker, and I started getting out wrestled and out grappled in my fights as an amateur. So once guys figured out the formula to beat me, I went back to the drawing board and told myself, like, hey, I'm not going to get it done if I'm just boxing and kickboxing and striking and only working my takedown defense day in and day out. So the last couple of years, and that's one of the reasons why I actually transitioned to Glory, because I knew they're a heavy grappling gym. They did a lot of rounds. They have a lot of good wrestlers up here, high level wrestlers and grapplers. So that's one of the reasons why I transitioned over to Glory, and I think it has done great for my I've obviously rounded out my game. I'm a way better grappler. I actually have more submission victories as a pro now than TKOs. So I had my 4th submission victory, and I have 3 TKOs as a pro, but I'm still a grappler. I don't care what my record says or how many submissions I have. At the end of the day, I know I'm a striker, and I want to keep it on the feet, but it's good to have that grappling and wrestling to rely on if I need it, like I've needed in my last 2 fights, because these guys came out and were beating me up on the feet. And once I took it to the ground, I realized that I had the advantage there, and ended up winning by submission my last 2 fights. So it's good to have in my back pocket if I need it. However, I do prefer to keep it on the feet. And that's kind of funny how that works when you say you never getting hit, because I was such a good striker when I was working on my striking. I was never getting hit. I was winning by TKO, but I was getting out wrestled. And now that I'm working specifically on my grappling and wrestling, I'm getting beat up on the feet, and then I'm winning on the ground. And I'm getting submissions on the ground, out grappling and out wrestling people. So it's kind of funny how that works. Ever since I started really focusing on it, it's like, yeah, that's like now I'm starting to get beat up. I never ever went to the hospital or needed stitches ever through 40 fights. And then all of a sudden, my last 2 fights, I get a little bit better at grappling and wrestling, and now I'm ended up in the hospital after my fights.
Yeah, things are a little more close quarters now.
Yeah, hopefully we can mash it all in and we'll go from there. But
all right, Ryan. Well, before we end this out, we talked about this before we started. Talked a little bit about it, messaging back and forth. You're a Longhorns fan. Yeah.
Give me one of these. You can give me one of these now with your boy. We just gave you our boy.
Oh man, I can't. I can't. I want to give him, credit. He's a good quarterback, especially to perform at this level. You gotta be. Mm-hmm. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I haven't seen what he can do for us just yet. So I can't thank you just yet for us getting the young man. But if it really pans out and say we play for a Big Ten title this year, I'll be the first to message you, go on the show and say Ryan Leininger was right.
That's right. No, I have a lot of confidence in Casey Thompson, dude. Like, I mean, I watched, obviously being a Texas fan, I watched all his stuff before he got to Texas. And even when he was at Texas, the problem is Texas as a team is so inconsistent. Casey Thompson did great, man. He had multiple games where he threw 4 or 5 touchdown passes. He's got that deep ball accuracy. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He made some mistakes that, first year starter where he had some plays where you're like, you just can't do, but he's going to fix those things. I have so much confidence that he's going to be what Nebraska needs. I mean, the problem with Nebraska, in my opinion, is what's around Casey Thompson.
We got some good ones coming.
Yeah, I did hear. Yeah, you got some. Was it last year? This year, some transfer portal receivers.
We got some receivers coming from LSU, as well as we got the receivers coach who is coming home. So, yeah. And we got a JUCO running back transfer that, man, they said this guy is really good, really good.
Yeah, and the problem with Nebraska has never been the defense.
No, we've had our rough years with black shirts, but they've had a resurgence the last year or so.
Yeah, so I think, dude, you have everything to be excited about coming into this next season, and with Casey Thompson and with these new guys coming in. I'm excited. I'm not even a Nebraska fan, but I'm kind of excited to see what they do with it. I'll be watching the games and I'll definitely be rooting for him. Even just being, I'm a Casey Thompson fan, so I think that he's going to be a great fit in that offense. He's one of those. He's a playmaker, is what he is. He's going to make some mistakes here and there, but at the end of the day, he's one of those guys that, go back and watch the Colorado-Texas game, his first start ever, and he's just dropping dimes, 5 touchdown passes on like 8 throws, all deep balls, 5 touchdowns against Oklahoma this year. He had his games where he just looked like, man, this guy could be like a Heisman contender.
Yeah, what the hell?
Yeah, and obviously you had those plays like we talked about where he's trying to fit a ball in late in the game, and we had those tough losses. But those, good thing he learned those mistakes at Texas.
Yeah, I'll take that.
I was going to say he wasn't making those mistakes at Nebraska. He fixed them here at Texas. So, and then I'm still excited. We got even though Casey Thompson and Hudson Card I think are bouncing out in the transfer portal, we got Quinn Ewers. That's why Casey Thompson transferred. We got that Ohio State transfer. He's like the highest rated quarterback since Vince Young out of high school.
Wow.
Yeah, player. He's the only one of like 3 players ever to have like a 1.0 high school player rating.
Holy shit.
5-star recruit. And he transferred out of Ohio State this year because their quarterback, CJ Stroud, is going to be there for another 3-4 years. And
Oh,
obviously we all saw what he did. Why would you bench that guy?
You don't.
You know?
The only thing you worry about is him getting injured. That's it. That's all
Yeah,
you got to worry about with him.
They'd be like, dang. But
that would suck.
The only thing that rubs me off a little bit is that Quinn Ewers originally committed to Texas and then decommitted and went to Ohio State this last year. So that kind of rubs me like as a Texas fan, I'm kind of like, ugh. It's like the whole LBJ thing.
Yeah.
A little bit. But so he originally committed to Texas, decommitted, went to Ohio State because Texas didn't have a very good year. And now that he's the backup and not starting, oh, let's go back to Texas. That rubs me off a little bit the wrong way. But hey, you know what? If he comes out and is everything that Texas wants and more for a quarterback, you can't really stay mad at the guy. It's like short memory. Oh, yeah.
I don't know. People were toying with the idea of us taking Spencer Rattler out of the transfer portal, and I'm 100% against that one. I'm thanking God he didn't come here.
Until he comes and brings Nebraska a national championship. And you're like, oh, Spencer Rattler.
I don't think he can do it. No. All right, Ryan.
Yeah. Question.
Go ahead.
Niners fan. One last thing.
Yes, sir.
How many points did the Niners beat the Packers by today?
See, and I don't keep up with NFL as much as I do college because Nebraska, we don't have a pro team.
Yeah.
But I did watch the entire game with San Francisco against Dallas last week. So that being said,
play like that.
And is it in Lambeau? It's at Lambeau, right?
Yep.
Oh boy. Wow. If Garoppolo can perform the way he did against Dallas and that defense comes out the way they did, you're probably looking at the same type of score. We're probably looking at like 27-10 for a final.
I want to hear your final prediction right now.
I'm going to say that. I'm going to say, screw that. They got a hell of a field goal kicker. We're going to go 31-17.
31-17.
31-17 at Lambeau. I'm calling the upset.
49ers.
The way they played last week against Dallas, man, the way they shut that offense down, I think Rodgers going to have a tough day, but he is a vet. He's more of a vet than Prescott is. So
he'll get his. He'll get his. Him and Adams will get
theirs. It's going to be a hell of a test for that defense. It really will. It's a different monster.
All right, man. I just had to hear you completely come out and probably lie straight to my face about who you think is going to win just to be nice. But
hey, either team's
going to be 31-17. I'm going to message you like, what the heck?
Dude, if that happens, I've gotten lucky like that. One time I called a Nebraska shutout in a bowl game one year. It was when we had Ndamukong Suh on the defensive line, and they shut out Arizona in the bowl game. I was like, holy shit. Wow. Okay, cool.
Should put some money on it.
Never got anything right after that. That's for sure. All right, Ryan. Well, this is the end of the show. This is where I turn it over to my guest. I want you to let everybody know where they can find you on any social media platform. And at the same time, any charities or organizations you may be a part of that you would like to plug, go right ahead. The stage is yours, my friend.
Yeah, I don't have any organizations or charities I'm part of. I'm actually kind of super bum outside of training and working and watching fights. That's really all I do right now. I'm totally engaged in that. But on social media, Facebook, Ryan Leininger, and Ryan Leininger _ for my Instagram. So it's pretty hardcore with the underscore on there. If you want to find me, Leininger, because I know y'all won't know how to pronounce it. You had to ask me before the show.
I did.
Man. Leininger.
Yeah.
But yeah, I post all my fights and stuff on update with everything on there. So if you guys want to follow me on Instagram or on Facebook, I'm always, giving updates and post mostly about fight stuff. So I don't go crazy on social media, but I do keep people up to date with my fights and everything on there. So yeah, if you want to find me on there, it's just my name _
Hell yeah. Dude, Ryan, this has been awesome, man. We finally got to it. We got it done. And Dude,
Yeah, I appreciate it, man, for sure. I've always got time. So if you ever want, hit me up. I got nothing.
Dude, as soon as Dana White calls you up, man, we're gonna have you back on. We're gonna have to talk about
Let's
that.
do it. All right, man.
All right, guys, you know the deal for the show. You know where to find it on YouTube, The Spinoff. Find me on Facebook, The Spinoff. We got a fan page, so check it out. And of course, you got Twitter at Knutson_Brian and Instagram, The Spinoff Pod. So everybody check that out. I need to thank the Killigans for the intro music. You guys are awesome. Thank you. And at the same time, I want to once again thank my guest, Ryan Leininger, for joining me today.
Sure. Thank you.
Man, we're going to have you on again soon. Thank you so much.
Right, yeah, take care, man.
You too.